often get asked about my deadlift philosophy and how it was influenced. I've had some great mentors over the years, and I trained all over the country and moved all over the country to train with a number of different people. And then I've had some that I've just talked to that have helped me out quite a bit. I'm going to talk about 5 different people and how they influenced my philosophy. When I was 14 years old, a powerlifter named Steve Hall, who was my dad's best friend, took me under his wing. The first thing he did when I got to the gym for our first training session together is he kind of looked around the gym and he said, "It's been the same people here for the last 15 years, doing the same sets, same reps, same weight, day in, day out." He said, "No matter what you do, you're going to take one thing away from today. You got to put more weight on the bar." And that's how Steve influenced me. He used to always yell at me, "Commit to the pull." He taught me the mentality you need to deadlift. You need to hold onto that bar, come hell or high water, and he'd tell me your back's going to snap before you set that weight down. And Steve really taught me to commit to the pull. And I remember he used to always talk about a lot of the great deadlifters and how they just did a ton of work when they deadlifted. He said, his idea was basically if you want to deadlift more, you got to deadlift more. Steve, he taught me a few different things. He taught me, deadlifting is hard work. You need to commit to the pull, and no matter what you do, you have to progress throughout your workouts. He'd always say you have to make it more intense. So whether it was cutting down the rest interval, whether it was adding more weight to the bar, whether it was doing more sets, doing more reps, every workout with Steve was a war. It was an all-out battle to increase one of the intensity variables. I'm very grateful for that lesson. Ed Cohn is somebody I've talked to for a long time. I've never actually trained with Ed, but I first started talking to Ed Cohn when I was in high school, and he really helped shape my philosophy because, the commit to the pool and all that was great, but sometimes you get to the point where it'd be a little bit crazy where, you'd miss a weight and try it 15 times or something just because you felt like you had to do it. Where Ed Cohn, he kind of showed me, it's important to have the aggressive mentality, but you also have to have a plan. And Ed Cohn, showed me how to really lay out a good training cycle initially, and be aggressive, but not be too crazy, and get a very methodical approach. Gary Frank was very influential in my deadlifting style. I remember I moved down to Louisiana to train with him in 2002, and there were a number of powerlifters who used to always tell me, whatever you do, don't roll the bar when you deadlift. Don't roll the bar. They had like this, totally so-called conventional technique that worked for them. But Gary rolled the bar, and he told me, don't listen to them. Do what works best for you. So, Gary sort of said, conventional techniques can get conventional results. I remember he sort of laughed one day and said, "They ain't pulling 900, brah." And I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're right about that. So he taught me to, do what works best for me. And he used to always yell speed. That was the most important thing I got from Gary Frank. More than any set exercise, any routine, anything like that, is Gary would always yell speed, speed, speed. And that stuck with me to this day. I mean, it was always about, that's what helped get me to the next level, because I was initially started off as a really poor deadlifter. And once I got the mentality of that movement intention, compensatory acceleration, with the weight, that helped kick me to the next level. And, I really credit Gary Frank for always yelling speed at me. George Brink. George Brink is someone I trained on and off for a few years. George was the first person over 50 years old to pull 804. George Brink was a very tough man. He was a legendary beat cop in Ventura, California. And at 50 years old, he used to do, some of like the finished deadlift routines where he'd be doing, 5 sets of 10 stiff-legged deadlifts with enormous weights. And he wasn't scared of volume. And George, even though he trained his butt off in the gym, he was a meat lifter. George had the right mentality. I remember prior to him pulling 804, the most he'd ever pulled in the gym was 705. It was amazing. George would train hard in the gym, but when it came meet day, he kicked it up to a whole new level. George, again, reinforced the importance of high volume, but he also, talked a little more about, about deloading and things like that. So George was real helpful in that regard of developing the right mentality, realizing that it does take very hard work, to deadlift a lot. And he also showed that, as an older guy, he was able to, do a lot of volume. It was very, inspiring to train with somebody so much older that could out deadlift me. Paul Leonard was one of my training partners when I lived in California. I used to drive about 140 miles once a week to go down and train with him. Then he moved to Texas, and I live in Texas too, so we trained together here. Paul was influential in helping with my technique, and he also, again, reinforced the concept of deloading, because I'm, a real high volume guy, a real high intensity guy, but, you can't burn the candle at both ends, so Paul kind of convinced me of the importance of deloading. So I've had a lot of help along the way, and these are 5 mentors that have been very inspirational.